Sumo is back, everybody. The July tournament came and went. We had a new Yokozuna, a first-time champion, and a whole bunch of rising stars. But now, fall is here, and the September tournament is upon us. We'll talk about it today on the New to Sumo
Let's
podcast.
start the show. New to sumo, here we go.
Ah, man, that was a long summer. I mean, it wasn't even the fact that the sumo was absent from our lives so much as just the insane, sweltering heat just dragging it all out. But it's finally here. It's finally back. We're ready to talk about sumo again. And there's some pretty interesting storylines heading into the September tournament.
Yeah, I think one of the things I'm most curious to see is the Ozeki hunt. I mean, Wakatakakage seems like he's on the cusp of something amazing here. I'd love to see him manage to get an Ozeki promotion. Kirishima seems close, and of course, Aonishiki promoted to Komusubi. He's now gonna have a chance to start compiling his wins and who knows? I mean, if there's anyone who's capable of getting 33 wins in three tournaments, Onishiki's proven that he can go up against some of the top guys and collect wins and collect scalps. So that's something I'll definitely be keeping an eye on in the long term. Like, can Onishiki keep it going? And last tournament, he seemed to prove that he can go up against anybody. So those are some of the ones I'm most curious about. But then you also got a lot of new names that are slowly but surely making their way up, like Kusano, now up to M6. I wonder if he'll be able to handle the heat as he takes on some really tough opposition this time compared to last.
Yeah, I mean, there were just so many guys that had maybe been flying under the radar a little bit, or a lot in the case of our last champion, to the point where it's hard to know who to really take super seriously this time among those guys, so to speak. Was what we saw from Kotoshoho in July, the new going to be the new normal for him? Is what we saw from Kusano and Fujinokawa on their respective debuts. Is that going to be their normal? Hakuoho had a solid tournament and just he still hasn't had a losing record in a tournament where he's fought all 15 matches. We can't stop gushing about Onishiki and Onosato. I mean, having a solid, if not championship caliber performance. So there's really a lot of people to have your eyes on because I think the last tournament showed us is that even though we've got two Yokozuna, there's still very much a ton of parity just up and down the Banzuke, which only means, a lot of great sumo matches to come even when it seems like it might be very top heavy.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to be the level of dominance that we've seen from, the classics, Hakuho, Takerufuji at his best. Like we're going to see surprising winners. We're going to see Kinboshi and plenty of them, as we did in the last tournament. And maybe that's a good place for us to get organized and get started with today's topic is just our two Yokozuna. So obviously Onosato and Hoshoryu had by different metrics, they had disappointing tournaments in the last one, although very different levels of disappointing. Onosato with the 11-4 record, he gave up four Kinboshi. So, he's certainly adapting to the new role at Yokozuna. An 11-4 record when he was an Ozeki and when he was in the Sanyaku, those were excellent. But an 11-4 record as Yokozuna with four Kinboshi is not good enough by most accounts. So, but what we expect from Onosato, what we've seen a lot, is that when he gets into a new role, he has a bit of a adaptation period, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if, like he has always done, if he has a better record this time than he did last time. So I think Onosato, assuming health and everything, should be pretty safe for at least 11 wins or 12 maybe this time around, if not more, and he starts dominating again like the guy we thought he would be when he was promoted.
I totally agree. In fact, I'll maybe take it a step further. I think the version of Onosato that we saw in July might be the worst version of Onosato that we will see until his first injury, which he has thankfully managed to avoid so far. But, as all of our recent guests have told us, it's never an if, it's always a when. So I really wouldn't be surprised if 12 to 13 wins starts to become his average, and I'll just, jump the shark and say it right now. I think he's going to win this tournament.
Okay, yeah.
I think he bounces back strong and he's going to take this one. But speaking of guys who are the opposite of the position he's in right now, let's talk about our other Yokozuna, Hoshoryu, who, man, I feel so bad. It's like it's almost as though that epic moment of him winning in January and clinching Yokozuna, it's almost like it came at a cost. That was, it's like that Avengers Endgame moment. Whoa, what was the cost? Everything, because he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. It's so frustrating. Like even during this past summer, he has started looking like, like a mummy with how much tape that he has been putting on and all of the practice bouts he's been having. Like now it's gone from being his toes to his shoulders. Like he's literally become the song. It's head, shoulders, knees, and toes with his injuries. I just don't know what to expect from the guy. And until he can just string together like two tournaments where he's got double digit wins, I wouldn't, I wouldn't touch expectations of him with a 10-foot pole.
It's so disappointing. Just I'm disappointed on his behalf because we know he wants to be doing more, but he's certainly making good use of the leeway you get as a Yokozuna to step out for injury and then maintain your rank and come back if you're able. The latest word I've heard about injury is that it could go either way as far as whether he competes in the next tournament. Maybe you've heard something different, but as of the time we're recording, it seems like there's a possibility that he'll miss some or all of this tournament. I would be surprised, frankly, if he misses the whole thing. I just feel like he's going to do everything he can to compete in part of it. But basically, what that tells us is he's not likely to compete for the yusho, which is in itself a disappointment. And yeah, that would be three of the last four tournaments where he'd be missing matches if that ends up being the case. And that's just so upsetting to three of his first four tournaments as a Yokozuna. So really just hoping for him to heal fast. I mean, he's 26 years old. There's no reason why he shouldn't have the capability of healing well at his age. So, but sumo has a unique effect on the body, as we could imagine. I'm hoping for the best for him. I want to see him and Onosato at their best, both competing as Yokozunas. Is that so much to ask for? So
Yeah, like I just want to see both of them, stay healthy enough so that we can get a 1v1 of them. In fact, I don't even know when the last time the two of them fought each other was. It was no, wait, no, it was May. I don't know. Forget that. Um yeah, now we turn to our Ozeki Kotoza. I mean, we don't even need to bring up his page. There's nothing to talk about. Like it's just,
well, it's eight
it's
and seven. Eight and
yeah,
seven is essentially the Kotozakura way right now. And
yeah, I
if I were
mean,
betting, I would say he's probably going to get eight and seven, or maybe he'll have a good tournament to go 9-6 right now. But I think the better topic with Kotozakura is what the hell is going on with him? Is this just where he's at now? Is this a long-term injury? Like maybe those two things are the same, but why has he gone from being a Yokozuna contender, terminally growing and improving to completely stagnant now over three tournaments and really over the last four disappointing everybody since his yusho?
maybe he'll answer that question. I mean, like the next tournament that really swings one way or another, whether it's like a big winning tournament with like 11 or 12 or a big losing tournament where he, only wins three or four, maybe that'll tell us whether it really is an injury or if, it's something much deeper, but for now, it's just he's the Ozeki. He's not under any sort of Kadoban risk of demotion. So, he's just sort of going through the motions, I guess.
Yeah, we don't call for comments a lot, but everybody who's listening, let us know in the comments what you think is Kotozakura's future as a sumo wrestler? Like, do you think he still has it? The ability to be, that 14-1 tournament he had last year, and the amazing run he was on, where he was just collecting double-digit tournament wins like it was nothing, like he was doing for so much of 2023 and 2024. What's Kotozakura's future like? Is he going to be barely hanging on to Ozeki? Not unlike how Takayasu did for a long time, or is he going to finally come back and be the guy that we thought he was going to be for so long? I'd really like to hear what everybody thinks about that one because I am just baffled by this change in performance. But hey, still, I don't want to be too negative on him because getting 8 wins at Ozeki is still not easy. He's fighting against all the best guys all tournament long. Getting 8 wins is great, but it's just not who he was for so long. That makes it so confusing. So, um, enough about Kotozakura though. We got two Sekiwake right now, and honestly, like these two, this role fits them like a glove. Wakatakakage and Kirishima. But I would love also to see these guys get promoted to Ozeki at some point. Make some room for other guys to get into the Sanyaku. Come on, we got all these open Ozeki slots. So I'm hoping that Wakatakakage will be the first one to do it. How many wins does he need to get that promotion right now? What are we looking
Th-
at?
That's sort of an interesting question. So right now he's sitting at 22 wins over the last two tournaments. The guaranteed number, like the magic number, so to speak, is 11. If he hits 11, there's no scenario in which he doesn't get promoted to Ozeki. The better question is whether they might make a special exception for him and potentially let him in at 32 wins, which he could achieve with a much easier 10-5 record, which does not happen often, but it has happened in the last 5 years to, I believe it was Shodai. Um, the only reason that they might do something like that would be if both like are Yokozuna and if Kotozakura maybe both wound up pulling out with injuries and maybe the Sumo Association decides, you know what, this guy's healthy. He's only 1 win off the pace. He has just been crushing it. He's already a former champion. Let's just give him the promotion he was on pace for before he suffered his big injury, and just see if maybe pushing him to Ozeki will in turn push everybody else that's around him. So,
I could see that. I also think that one thing that could factor in would be who he gets his losses to. So if we're talking
mm,
about if Wakataka Kage goes 10-5, that's the lowest possible record where he could still get promoted to Ozeki. Those 5 losses, are they coming from rank and filers or are they coming from guys in the Sanyaku? Because I think if it's Sanyaku losses, then it's a fair expectation that that would happen to an Ozeki. It doesn't. It's not foreboding. So I could see that maybe being a factor too. But personally, I think they probably would give it to him if he gets 10 wins, especially with the way Kotozakura has been looking recently, because he seems like he's on the verge of demotion at any moment. So then we're without an Ozeki. So now, if Kotozakura, like you said, if he has a great tournament, maybe that changes that picture. But I could just see that hollow, vacant side on the Ozeki West spot. It just seems like it's waiting for somebody. And Kirishima, I mean, he's in and around it. Onishiki looks like maybe he's a few tournaments away from it, but this is we're gonna be it's gonna be empty for a long time possibly if Wakataka Kage doesn't do it now.
yeah, I mean, this is his moment. Like, if he stumbles and finishes with like 9 wins, then he's pretty much going to have to start over in November, which would kind of stink for him. But it is what it is. Win now, become an Ozeki, and then you have our permission to have the occasional rough tournament.
Right, exactly.
Uh, you did mention Kirishima. He has been, getting those winning records, but it's like I've been saying for nearly a year now. It's just he's Jekyll and Hyde. It's every other tournament. 12-3, 6-9, 11-4, 8-7, 11-4, 8-7. He was looking so good in July, and then he just out of nowhere loses his final five, two of which were against low Maegashira guys. That should not happen. Like, he should have been like, if he had just won two of those, he could have been in a position for a potential Ozeki promotion with a strong tournament. Instead, he's starting from scratch now. He's got
Yep.
to string together, 33 over the next three. It's really not likely to happen. Like we probably he won't be relevant in the Ozeki conversation until like maybe midway through next year at this point. And maybe he finally manages to overcome whatever has been bothering him, whether it's physical or mental. And I hope we can talk about him, with as much excitement as we talk about Wakatakakage after this tournament.
Yeah,
But
that would be great. We've been saying for a long time. I feel like if you go back to our podcast for the last 2 years, we've been talking about how badly we want Kirishima to be great again. Make Kirishima great again. That's what we've been saying
exactly.
this whole time. But seriously, well, this is not serious actually. If you look at his records, you'll notice he has a really good tournament, and then a lame tournament, good tournament, lame, like you said, the yo-yo. This should be, if that trend continues, this should be a double-digit win tournament. So mark that. Pick him for your Kachi Clash if you're feeling confident. This is supposed to be one of the good ones for Kirishima, so let's see it.
Yep. I'm rooting for you, Kirishima, even if no, but none of our listeners are.
Now, I'm
Uh,
sure we got a lot of Kirishima stands in the audience. Let us know. Let us know. I think Kirishima's great. We were watching back when he was on his Yokozuna run, and then it didn't work out, and then everything went backwards. But I think he could get back up there. I think he fits in where he's at right now. I want to see him stay in the Sanyaku and push for that Ozeki too. And finishing out the Sanyaku, we got our two Komusubi, Takayasu, who had a great tournament.
Yeah, I think that was his first winning tournament from the Sanyaku ranks in like years. Yeah, like yeah, it's in about 4 years. That's how long it's been since the last time he had a winning record from up there. So, a good tournament from him, and I always expect him to like, knock a few guys down to size just based on his experience, but I mean, he wasn't really in contention, after like about 10 days or so. Like he had two rough losses midweek that kind of mid tournament that knocked him out of the race. I wouldn't be surprised if he has another losing record, like a bad losing record, but I could also see him like somehow getting his Kachi Koshi and holding serve. But I mean, like I'm done, completely done, viewing him as a yusho contender. Like
Yeah.
even if he could be, 13-2, just, one win ahead of everyone on like the final day, and I'd bet my life and everybody else's that he would find a way to mess it up at the end. So
Yeah, I mean, I really would love to see him do it. I mean, it would be such a fitting conclusion to his career. You got some of the other older fellas like Shodai Tamawashi, but they've already got their yusho. So for them, it's just about longevity. It's about how long can I do this at the top level. Takayasu, he's still never done it, and it just, that's sad zero in the Makuchi titles section. We just want to give him one before it's over. But yeah, I would never bet on it. When you lose nine playoffs or final day, matches, it starts to feel like there's some mental block there. But hey, you never know. Anything could happen. And one thing you got to give him credit for is, I mean, to get 10 wins at Komusubi, you are fighting only the best the entire tournament when you're Komusubi. So 10-5 is really impressive from there. Let's see him do it again at Komusubi East.
hell yeah.
And maybe the most exciting wrestler of the last couple tournaments to keep an eye on their ascent has been Aonishiki.
I mean, like I'm running out of superlatives for this guy. So he just reached Komusubi, and it took him only 12 tournaments to from the very bottom of the Bansuke, by the way, Jonakuchi 14 to get there. Like, Onosato, reached his heights faster, but he got his special dispensation starting in the third division. Here's to put it into perspective just how unprecedented Onishiki's rise to this rank is. The previous record for an ascension from lowest division to Sanyaku was 14 tournaments. So he's already shattered the record by two tournaments. But here's who held that record. You had the legendary Ozeki Kunishiki, who won four tournaments, could have been a Yokozuna. Then it was the future Yokozuna Akabono, God rest his soul. Then it was the future Yokozuna Hoshoryu, who wound up winning 25 tournaments. And finally, it was the future Ozeki Kotoshoho, who now runs his own stable and was the first European to win a tournament. That is some absolutely incredible company to be in. I'm not saying that he's going to wind up being a multi-time champion or even a Yokozuna, but I mean, people who have gotten where he is as fast as he is, it's quite literally a perfect attendance record in the upper Sanyaku ranks. I don't know how you can't be excited for this guy. Maybe he'll stumble, his first go. He's gonna have to face back-to-back Yokozuna on his first like 2 to 4 days. But man, like it's yeah, I'm speechless. Like three straight tournaments in the first division, three straight 11-4 records. I've decided I'm just going to always pick him until he gives me a reason not to, through actual results in the dohyo.
Yeah, that was the big question last tournament, was, is he a good pick for Kachi Clash, which we'll get to in a little bit, because he's unproven against the top guys. And what does he do? Well, he wins 11 of his first 13 matches against all of the top guys, beating out an Ozeki, beating out a Yokozuna, beating out two more Sekiwake, beating a Komusubi. I mean, he beat everybody basically, except for Onosato. I mean, he had a couple losses ultimately, but he showed no reason to think that he can't take the top guys. It's just obviously going perfect is pretty tough. I think Aonishiki, yeah, the sky's the limit for him. I could totally see him as a future Ozeki. Who knows what else? But I think he's a great pick, and I could see him being a dark horse for the tournament. Honestly, the
And
way he's been
he's
going.
and he's still 21. I mean, he's not even old enough to rent a car here in the United States. And he's, maybe like, for all we know, a year away from becoming an Ozeki. It's incredible. And, not only am I expecting greatness from him, I'm downright rooting for it.
Yeah.
So good luck to the Blue Tornado. Why don't let's skip ahead a little bit to our last tournament winner before we make Kachi Clash picks. We spoke about Kota Shoho a lot in the last tournament, you know, kind of questioning, was that 13-2 we saw from him, is that like a sign of things to come, or is it like a once in a lifetime thing that probably won't happen again? And I gotta say, it as much as I believe that it might be, it's just there's absolutely no evidence from looking at his history that inspires me to believe he's capable of that. It's like it's just tournament after tournament of like either high records at like the very low levels, totally underwhelming records in like the mid ranks, and just getting walloped in like the higher ranks. I what he did last tournament, is I don't necessarily think it's unprecedented. It's certainly not, but man, like I really think that might wind up being the highlight of his career, not a sign of things to come.
Yeah, I mean, you only have to look at the careers of seasoned veterans like, Shodai, Matakiumi, guys who've been around a very long time, and see like how many Yusho wins do they have? One, two, occasionally more than that, but typically, one Yusho win is the zenith of a lot of people's careers. So I would not at all be surprised if that was the case for Kotoshoho. But we got a lot of, I specifically got a lot of feedback in the last video that I was too negative about Kotoshoho. To be honest, I like the guy. He worked really hard last tournament to earn that Yusho. He 100% earned it. I think that to win from M15, naturally by definition, your opposition is going to be lower ranked. And that was what happened. But it takes a lot of consistency and perfection to make that happen. So it's very impressive. I think the thing that I was feeling after that tournament was that it just didn't indicate to us what the future of the sport is going to look like over the next couple tournaments. Because, like you're saying, I don't really see him putting up another yusho race. And you know what? If we get proven wrong and he's in the yusho hunt till the towards the end of this tournament, I mean that would be really cool to see. He would be a name that we had not had on our leaderboards that joins the story, and I think that's great. But in the last video, we're really just kind of sharing our opinions on what we think this means. What's the significance of this yusho that he won? And to be honest, I didn't really see it being that much of a long-term success that it was going to indicate. But happy to be proven wrong. I mean, Kotoshoho, he's obviously got a lot of talent, and hey, I mean, he's a Makuuchi division wrestler, which means by definition he is eligible to win a yusho at any time.
Well, you know
Tamo,
what? Why don't we do our Kachi Clash picks?
sure, let's get right to it. So we'll breeze through the top parts because we talked about all these wrestlers in depth, but for the top three, we are choosing between Onosato, Hoshoryu, and Kotozakura. I think I speak for the both of us and probably everyone on Earth when I choose Onosato as my pick. Is that fair to say?
Oh yeah, I mean he's the only one who had even had double digits last tournament, so no reason to think he won't be as good or better.
Yeah, I know I've got a bit of a spoiler on the screen by having my actual picks here, but um, for the next round, we have Wakatakakage, Kirishima, Takayasu, and Aonishiki. I we might have different picks here. Who did you go with?
I went with Onishiki. I said a few minutes ago that he's my guy until he proves he's so. I'm going to stick with him. I wish Wakatakakage all the luck. I hope he gets his 11 wins, but Onishiki has proven that. I mean, he got 11 from around this spot last tournament, so maybe he can do it again.
Sure. And Takayasu, what do you think? You think he can get double digits again?
I mean, well, he got it last tournament. I mean, anything's possible, but I mean, the recent trend doesn't really support it. But if you're he's high risk, medium reward, I'd say.
Understandable. And I went with Wakatakakage because I'm rooting for the guy. I just want to see it happen, and every day I'm hoping that he'll get his Ozeki promotion. So I have him on my team. Just gonna keep rooting for him on Kachi Clash and storyline wise. And then in the next group we have our M1 through M5: Tamawashi, Abi, Hakuoho, Oho, Atami Fuji, Gonoyama, Hirada Wakamoto Haru, Kotoshoho, and Ichi Yamamoto.
Man,
So
a lot of guys here that I'm not necessarily a huge fan of, just like in general. Tamawashi, shocked everybody by being in the Yusho race at the age of like 51. Uh,
just about.
yeah, somewhere around 50 or so. I think he's gonna struggle here. Abi, I mean, I don't know what's up with him. Like he's always hovering around the low Sanyaku, high Maegashira, so I'm sure he'll be fine.
Yeah, I just want to
Um,
mention with him, we had a request to go into a little bit more detail on Abi. So, do we have any more we
oh,
want to cover?
Sure. I mean, Abi in general, he's too experienced to have like a bad tournament. Like the worst that he has done recently is like 5-10, and he was probably dealing with, either some kind of injury or just a surge in talent. Other than that, like he's always good for a good number of wins, and he seems to really up his game when he's in the upper Maegashira. Yeah, he's gotten back-to-back Kinboshi as well. So, he certainly knows how to get the better of our Yokozuna. I mean, he's got the veteran savvy to beat literally anybody on this Bansuke, but he just maybe is a little too worn out and worn down to really win tournaments anymore. So, I mean, he's in his early 30s, he's dealt with some injuries at time, kind of a heavy boy, so he probably isn't in like the best of health in his early 30s. I'm not saying that he's like ready to retire, but I think we're certainly closer to the end of his career than the start of it, that's for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it takes a tremendous amount of skill to hover around the Sanyaku or just under it. And so the fact that he's managed to stay in that zone for so long, I mean, he had one tournament below M3 in the last 4 years than it was after missing an entire tournament due to injury. Generally, I mean, you can guarantee he's going to be M1, 2, 3, or Komusubi or Sekiwake, like every tournament, and that takes a lot of skill. It also means a lot of yo-yoing. So he can definitely beat anybody on his day, but he could also definitely lose 6 to 10 matches in any given tournament. I'm not sure really what to expect from him, honestly. It could be either way. It's so hard to predict with him. So that's why I don't pick him for my Kachi Clash. I'm going with Wakamoto Haru. Similar story, and that's really the same story for a lot of the guys around here. They could go 9-6, they could go 6-9, almost any tournament. But Wakamoto Haru, I just feel like at M4 he's a little bit underranked for his skill. I feel like if he was at M1, I could see him with a losing record, but at M4, I feel like he could get 8-9 wins, and that's almost as much as you could expect of anybody in M1 through M5 because the competition there is just so fierce. You're fighting everybody. So I think Wakamoto Haru might be one of the steadier hands for this region of the Banzuke.
You're probably right about Wakamoto Haru. My issue with him is just he's had losing records in three of his last four tournaments. Maybe he's dealing with some kind of, injury that, or, just maybe even a conditioning issues to where he just isn't like able to give 100% at the start. I don't know, but for kind of the same reason that it feels safe to take him, I'm going with Hakuoho as my pick. Believe it or not, Hakuoho has never had a losing record in a tournament where he's fought all 15 days, and he's never even had a losing record in the Maegashira ranks. His only losing record was in a tournament where he missed entirely due to a shoulder injury. Other than that, he's been pretty rock solid for 8 to 10 wins. And I'm wondering if maybe him getting that one Kinboshi over Onosato is like going to sort of inspire him to do better this time around. I don't know, but I'm excited to, see him improve on that. And I think he can do it. Like I think he can get to like 10 wins and finally maybe break through into the Sanyaku at the end of this tournament.
Yeah, one thing with Hakuoho that makes him a safe, reliable pick for Kachi Clash or just to have a great tournament is that last tournament, that was his real acid test against the best wrestlers, and he got a winning record, and that was the case the tournament before too. The tournament before, it looked like he was in the yusho hunt, and then he went on 7 straight losses, or 7 out of 8 losses at the second half of the tournament. So if that was due to injury, then that all the more shows that he's got the ability there. But to go 8-7 at M4 is not easy, and the Kenboshi, of course. So yeah, I think basically he's capable of doing just about anything from this rank. He already proved it last tournament by getting that Kachikoshi from M4. So I think it's a reliable wrestler to choose. And this section is just so hard to choose because really, I mean, we've had tournaments where nobody got a single winning record like in this group because of who they're up against.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I will say that like of some of those guys, like Oho's really the only one who looks like he could have a really strong tournament just because he sometimes does.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
He's had 9+ win tournaments from this position.
yeah, but other than him, like Atami Fuji had a great tournament last time, but I'm not expecting great things now that he's fighting the Sanyaku again. Same with Gonoyama, Hiradaumi, and Ichiyamamoto. Those guys they've all had, pretty good tournaments, in and around this area, but none of them really, like, unless they just have, the best tournament of their entire lives, I don't really have much reason to expect great things from them this time around. That being said, we were, of course, proven completely wrong by Kotoshoho, last tournament. So, we might be stuck eating crow in a couple of weeks, but I just don't have enough. I don't really have enough things that I can say about them to really feel inspired to pick them. But they all have potential. So if you want to make a high risk, high reward pick, then feel free to take any of those guys.
Oh yeah, and it's also hard when we make picks like these or, make predictions of who we think is going to perform in the tournament to not come across like a hater. But the reality is, like, if we're gonna make predictions, we have to use the data we have to like reasonably speculate about how they might do, and we could be proven wrong, but it would be a very boring show if all we said was that this guy's amazing, he's gonna get 15 wins. Like, we have to kind of be realistic and look at the stats and kind of imagine. So, that's the same thing with Kotoshoho. Like, he won the yusho. I don't know if I predict he will have a winning record from M5. That's a really tough spot. That's like one of the toughest spots on the Banzake. So I just don't see it. But hey, anything's possible. Maybe
I'm
now we're going to see the real Kotoshoho.
I mean, look, there's 42 guys in the top division. Like just not everybody is equipped to be a contender, let alone a champion. That's what makes it hard to really feel confident about certain guys once they reach that Maegashira 1 through 5 level. It's not being a hater. It's simply, sort of acknowledging how insanely difficult and how incredibly rare it is for guys like them to win a single tournament.
Yeah. And speaking of guys who are not likely to win a tournament, let's talk about M6 through M10. So we've got
Ah, yes.
so we've got Onokatsu, Kusano, Takanosho, Oshoma, Uda, play the music. Kinbozan, Midori Fuji, Fujinokawa, Daieisho down at M10, and Churano Umi. And as everyone in the audience can see here, I am going with Daieisho. It's risky, but Daieisho, I mean, he's a Sekiwake. He's a, future Ozeki, maybe. So he got demoted because he missed the last tournament due to injury. If he's healthy this time around, he is the clear favorite from this group. But if he's not, I could see one other name that could have the best record from here. Who do you
Yeah,
have?
and it's the person that I picked. It's Kusano. Like Kusano, sort of entered the tournament, just completely on fire. I mean, he looked exactly as good as we thought he would. He was in the yusho race all the way to the final week, stumbled a bit in losses to Wakatakakage and Takanosho. Like he lost to Kotoshoho early, which kind of tanked his real chances, but 12-3 was within his grasp and he let it slip through his fingers at the end. So like this is a guy that he clearly had he clearly was what's the word? He was much better than his rank last tournament would have indicated. And maybe this might be a little bit closer to his actual talent level. I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of like 8 to 9 wins out of him. But just from the skill that he showed, I think I wouldn't be shocked if he has like, maybe this is like the mega tournament that we have come to expect from like from certain rookies from time to time. So I think he's the safe pick here. But there are some other appealing guys in this area. Kinbozan has had some pretty big tournaments in the past. Um Fujinokawa, who I honestly, that name change also like just messed with my understanding of who he even is. His 10-5 record was somehow even better than I thought it was. He's a guy that might also have a Kusano like tournament, a guy that a lot of people can expect great things from. Though I think he might be, even closer to being where he belongs than Kusano is in this case. So those two guys are certainly worth a look. But I'm 100% with you on Daieisho. Daieisho, I mean, when healthy, I mean he's just a dynamo. Like he can beat virtually anybody at the top of the Banzai, let alone the lower half who he's going to be pitted against in this tournament. However, we are recording this on September 1st, and we haven't seen the final injury report for the tournament. So, simply put, if he's got a clean bill of health, like he's been doing all of the practicing and he's obviously competing, I'd say that he is the ideal pick over Kusano. If he's not, then, and if the ruling is he's probably going to skip this tournament too, obviously you got to jump ship. But, if the bill of health is clean, like jump on Daisho because I think he's the guy.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, if he looks like he's going to be competing in day one, you got to go with Daisho. Another option, however, would be Ura.
Got to be very careful with Ura. He did suffer that knee injury at the end of last tournament that did cost him the final 3 days on of the tournament. Thankfully he had already gotten his winning record, but let's it. I haven't heard anything about him, so hopefully it was it was just some kind of sprain and not something that's going to keep him from competing or, worse, knock him out of the whole thing.
Yeah, as
Um,
I said, I mean, even with an injury, Ura never drops below M9. He wasn't going to do it last tournament, so it's not going to happen this tournament. He'll be here. The lowest record he could possibly get would be 7-8 because he's not going to go past M9. So that's a safe pick for anybody who wants to play a little conservative. Ura will have at least 7 wins, but you can't really say much else because, yeah, there was that injury. We're not exactly sure what we're going to get from him right now, other than a lot of somersaults.
100%. So now we move to the toughest part to pick, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We've got Just to list them off real quick: Shodai, Roga, Takerufuji, Mitakayumi, Meisei, Tokihayate, Sadanumi, Asakoryu, Tobizaru, Shonanumi, Tomokaze, Nishikigi, Ryuden, newcomer Hitoshi, and Shishi. Believe it or not, I think you actually have more championships down here than the rest of the top combined, because I think you've got at least one from Shodai and one from Takerufuji. You've got three from Mitakayumi. That's already five. So it's not more than the rest of it combined, but it is pretty funny how it is more than our lower Sanyaku combined, despite having a total of three championships up there.
Yeah, well,
Um,
Matakayumi doing a lot of that heavy lifting.
that
I
is
mean,
true. Mitakayumi did do a lot of the heavy lifting on that
and he had
front.
a great tournament. I really strongly considered him for this one. But I just felt like at his age, the idea of, Lightning striking twice, 2 tournaments in a row, getting the promotion, I'm not sure. But he had a really nice tournament, especially early on. He started 6-0. But we were messaging in the middle of the tournament about who we thought could sustain their run. And I said, when Matakayumi was 6-0, I said, there is no way he is going to be in the yusho hunt by the end of this tournament. And that wasn't because well, I am a hater, but that's not why I said that. It's because we just haven't seen that level of performance from him in years. It just didn't make sense right now. So, sure enough, he started collecting some losses, but still a 10-5 record is fantastic. I mean, he was verging on demotion there, after having just been down in Juryo, and he managed to get a nice promotion to M12. It's a pretty good spot. So, kind of kept himself safe for another tournament, maybe. I don't know if Matakayumi is the guy for this one. There's going to be someone down here who's going to have an excellent run. Someone down here is going to get 11, 12 wins and probably be in the Yusho hunt. And I went with Takerufuji because he's done it. Now, Takerufuji, again, with the injuries. I mean, last tournaments, again, he had to step out because of injury. It's so frustrating. So, this is a tentative pick based on whether he's actually supposed to compete. If he does, I mean, he's just the most talented guy down here. I think Tobizaru, similar story. He is extremely low ranked for his ability, Tobizaru, but he also left due to injury, so not sure what to expect from him. So as of now, I go with Takerufuji or Tobizaru, but that's based on their health. We'll find out more about that closer to the tournament. How about you?
I'm actually going with our Maegashira 15 West Shonanumi. Tentatively. I think I might also wait on like to see the final injury report, but Shonanumi is a guy who's just always healthy. His size tends to help him against, certain undersized guys who manage to make their way into this area of it. He's at a point where he's still relatively young and like I mean he's in his physical prime right now at age 27. So, he's stuck in an area with a lot of guys who are either way smaller than him or just way older than him. And, he's had a few good records down in this area in the past. He had a 10-5 record in in the in the Juryo division, which included a couple of trips back up to this area. So I'm just thinking to myself, maybe he can have another big tournament here. Um, I've had just good records with him in the past when I've been brave enough to pick him. But honestly, this area is so unpredictable. And, everybody's going to be looking for the next Kotoshoho after what happened last tournament. Like for all we know, it could be somebody who's never done it that just has that epic comeback tournament and defies us all. Maybe it's Nishikigi who's finally back. Maybe it's, everybody hates Ryuden Day. Maybe it's Shishi coming out of nowhere and stunning us all. There's a lot of guys that have the skills or the physical traits to win a championship, but they all also seem like they're likely to just get walloped the minute they have to face like way tougher competition. So I just have no idea what to do with this entire area. So
Yeah,
I'm
it's
just gonna
especially tough. Very often recently, someone newly promoted looks like they will just take the division by storm, rack up 8 wins in the first 10, and then just make it very, easy from there to have a solid record by the end. We
that
don't have that
could
this time.
that
I mean,
actually we do.
you think Hitoshi?
Well, I mean, Hitoshi may be new, but I don't think he's necessarily that guy. He just had a lot of he was never great in Juryo. He had like good records, but I mean, he went 10-5 from Juryo 6, which isn't really like I'd say like maybe 70% of the time a record like that would not get you promoted all the way to Maegashira 17. It was just there were more demotions that needed to happen than there were, people who had qualified to really fill their spots. So one of them went to Hitoshi. I best remember him from an epic seven-way Makushita playoff back in 2023. That was when I first learned his name. But he's never done anything that really impresses me. I initially thought of picking him just because there's always that one rookie who shocks everybody. But I just don't know. Like the evidence isn't there to suggest that he can be a guy like a Fujinokawa or a Kusano or like a Takerufuji from last year. So I'd say buyer beware. I mean, you're basically buying a lottery ticket with him, and but granted, you can probably your odds of him winning are probably way better than the Powerball right now. But just be cautious with Hitoshi because he really is not that impressive in terms of what he's done the past few years.
Yeah, famous last words though. He's gonna go on and win the yusho.
Yeah,
So
he's definitely gonna win it now. So, feel free to tell me to eat crow. And please feel free to give us your predictions in the comments for who you think is going to win the yusho. Whoever can successfully pick the winner of the Basho will have their comment permanently pinned, but you have to be the first one to select it. And I think that's it for now.
make sure to let us know also if you want us to add you to our New to Sumo podcast, Kachi Clash Heya. We've got a bunch of people in it now, but there's still plenty of spots left. So if you want to compete against us and against your fellow New to Sumo potters, then just drop us your username. Make sure you already made an account on Kachi Clash, and then just let us know your username, and we can go in and find you and add you to the group.
All right, that's going to be it for this week's edition of the New to Sumo podcast. Can't wait for the tournament and can't wait to talk about it with you once it's all over.
And thanks everybody for watching. We'll catch you at the end of the tournament.
New to Sumo podcast fun. Hear the thump of victory won. Join the ranks, let's start the show. New to Sumo, here we go.